There's comfort in Apple's world, perhaps a little bit too much though. I turned off my iPhone for a week as an experiment, and 30 days later it's still turned off in my dead tech drawer somewhere. So in this video I'm going to break down everything that I miss, everything that I don't miss, and ultimately why I decided to stay with Team Green. I moved everything. SIM cards, cameras, wallet, hell, even my smart home and accessories where possible. No backup iPhones at all. If an app that I want on iOS isn't available on Android, then I simply don't get to use it. Let's start off with the basics. Communication. I'll be honest, there really wasn't much to miss here. Sure, you do lose out on your blue bubbles, but RCS has come on such a long way that the people that I did communicate with on iOS probably wouldn't have noticed if it wasn't for that bubble colour change. Read receipts, reactions, multimedia, even group chats just work absolutely flawlessly across devices. Sure, you do lose out on a sum of iOS niceties, including things like check-in, which I did use occasionally with my wife, but quite honestly, now that I don't have it, I don't really miss it. I'm giving this one a friction score of 1. There really wasn't any friction here whatsoever when it came to moving to Android, and I don't really miss any particular feature that iOS had. Next up, let's talk interconnectivity. AirDrop is a pretty big one here. Honestly, I used this a lot in my day without really even thinking about it. This is the ability to move things between your iPad, iPhone and Mac with ease. Now, on a day-to-day basis, I am a Mac user, and feasibly I can't really change that because of the work that I do. I really did take for granted the ability to take gigabytes worth of files and transfer them between my phone and my Mac almost instantly. Sure, Android has some solutions like Nearby Share and Quick Share, but realistically these are all Windows exclusive programs. The only real workaround that I found for me was installing the Honor Suite on my Mac. And though this worked, it was a little bit of a faff. The Honor Suite route worked, but honestly it was slow and pretty inconvenient. Sending files to friends and family was another pretty big one. I really did take for granted the ability to just tap my phone to my wife's and be able to send all of the pictures from that day from my phone to hers. And yes, I can send them directly through RCS, but then you get RCS compression. I can also send a Google Photos link, but she's on iPhone and she uses iCloud Photos, so there's a pretty big incompatibility there. It's actually a little bit of a pain to move files between Android and Macs and Android and iPhones. There's ways to do it, I just wish it was simpler. This was actually a pretty big thing for me. I'm giving this a friction score of 7 out of 10. It wasn't a deal breaker because there are some solutions around it. I just wish that we could use AirDrop across all devices. Next up, let's talk about video. Nothing quite compares to Apple when it comes to video. You get ProRes support, everything looks crystal clear, nice and smooth, and it is the best video experience you can get on a smartphone. I would go as far as to say that it looks cinematic. I am yet to find an Android device that truly does compare. I use the Honor Magic V5 on a daily basis. The cameras here are good, but they have nothing on the iPhone's cameras. And when it comes to camera support in things like Snapchat and Instagram, it's pretty flaky. If you're on a Pixel or a Galaxy device, then you're set. But if you're like me on something like an Honor device, you're going to find that it's not great in compatibility. The footage looks even worse than it does coming out of the main camera app on your phone. Don't get me wrong. The Magic V5 does produce some absolutely stunning videos, but a big part of me does miss the video functions on my iPhone. They just looked effortlessly good all of the time. This again isn't exactly a deal breaker. I'd call this a 6 out of 10 on the friction scale. Being a content creator, video is a pretty big thing that I do, and I do kind of miss iPhone, particularly for video. And when we're talking about accessories, MagSafe was another pretty big one. I own quite a lot of MagSafe accessories, from chargers and pop sockets and others. With all of these accessories, moving over to Android felt like I was moving back a few generations. Sure, the new Pixel does have this kind of support with the magnets, and most kinds of accessories that you buy that are MagSafe compatible do have a magnet in the box to allow you to attach it to the back of your Android phone, but it really isn't a solution. Wireless charging on the Android side is finicky. Unless you have a specific dock, like the Honor dock here, it's a little bit of a game of adjusting it until it is exactly right. And then it's only going to charge half the time anyway. To me, it was kind of a 3 out of 10. I did have to rebuy some of my accessories, and I do kind of miss the magnets, but it really wasn't as big of a deal as I expected it to be. Before we move on to what I don't miss though, I do just want to say that if this is the first time that you're seeing my face on your screen, then 1, lucky you, and 2, go down there, hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, so you get notified every time I upload. Let's talk about customization, because that is one thing that Android does incredibly well, especially compared to iOS. Custom icon packs? Easy. Changing your font across the whole of the device to something a little bit more readable or fun, you can absolutely do that. These little tweaks make your phone feel yours. And yes, iOS has really kind of stepped up their game with iOS 26. There's a lot more customization options, but honestly, it's still lagging behind Android in a pretty big way. Then there's the foldables form factor. The Magic V5 here is, I think, the closest thing we've ever seen to a perfect folding phone. It's slim, durable, fast, and lasts all day long. That big internal screen is perfect for multitasking. Emails on one side, notes on the other. Calendar on one side with your messages on the other. It makes it so easy to copy text and information between apps. I honestly feel like it has saved me so much time in terms of multitasking. And the tabletop mode makes hands-free calls and consuming media even more fun and easy. Sure, Apple are said to be releasing the iPhone Fold next year, and maybe that will make me switch back, but right now I'm really starting to doubt it. I'm loving the Android ecosystem and the OS over iOS and what they're doing. Finally, let's talk about batteries. And this is a big one, quite literally. The battery on the V5 is absolutely massive, and it charges in a lightning fast speed too, compared to what we're getting on the Apple side. Apple seems to be stuck with really slow both wireless and wired charging. The V5 truly does last me all day and a little bit more. And that's not to say that the iPhone didn't last me all day. It did, but with the V5, you've got this massive screen on the inside and the outside, and all of those cameras. There's a lot more going on here, which is even more impressive that the battery lasts as long as it does. Now, I did touch on this earlier, saying that accessories was something that I missed, particularly with MagSafe, but it's been an interesting journey, because actually on the Android side, you get a lot more choice. There genuinely does seem to be about 1,000,001 different choices when it comes to watches on Android. Each one has its own pros and cons. There doesn't seem to be that one absolutely perfect watch that I can say this is the one that you should get. You absolutely do get that with Apple. The Apple Watch integrates so well into the rest of the ecosystem and is just a beautiful piece of kit that I recommend it to anyone who owns an iPhone. And yes, the battery is incredibly weak compared to almost every other Android smartwatch on the market. However, the way that it integrates with the rest of the ecosystem is just second to none. I really do miss the Apple Watch. But with watches like the Xiaomi Watch S4 that is on the Android side, I do think it looks great. It's elegant, it lasts almost a week, and it really has won me over in the style department. And beyond hardware, what really did surprise me was just how far along software has come on the Android side. So let's talk about it. One of the biggest software surprises to me that really shouldn't have been a surprise was the AI assistants. Let's be honest, Siri has been stuck in the same kind of rubbish use case for the last 10 or 15 years. I did use it quite a lot on the iPhone to turn off my lights, set a timer, or perhaps send a really quick text hands-free. But when it came to doing any kind of functional searching, I was really getting bored of hearing, here's what I found on the internet. On the Android side of things though, it is a completely different story, and that's thanks to the Google Gemini support. They genuinely do feel really smart, and even manufacturers like Honor, Xiaomi and Samsung have their own AI models built directly in to do things like image processing and stuff like deepfake detection. It's actually really impressive just how much AI they've managed to squeeze into these devices. It doesn't feel incredibly unified across the whole Android platform, so you're gonna kind of have to decide what AI features you want and don't based upon the phone that you're buying. The biggest thing about Gemini and these assistants is its contextual understanding. I can ask it to show me pictures from when I went to that coffee shop last week, and it can do it. Honestly, Siri never really stood a chance. I can take a screenshot of my email and tell it to summarize it into really quick bullet points. At any point, I can just hold down my power button and share my whole screen with Gemini, allowing it to see the apps that I'm using and have contextual understanding, allowing me to, while I was setting up the scene here, see what's on the camera, and also get some tips and tricks on how the lighting and the focus looked. So I got to this point in my review of the Honor Magic V5, and something dawned on me. I'd simply stopped comparing them. I wasn't testing Android anymore, I was happily using it on a daily basis. And I knew at that point that this experiment was over. The phone that I carried in my pocket wasn't just a phone. It felt more like a part of me than it ever has before. Sometimes switching phones or choosing the right phone isn't all about specs and speed. It's about what feels right for you. It's about rediscovering agency. It's remembering that the phone in your pocket is there to serve you. You aren't there to serve it. About a month ago, I was testing a phone, but somewhere along the line, I stopped testing it and it started testing me. How much comfort was I willing to give up for an additional bit of freedom? How much polish for personality? The truth is, switching to Android didn't change fundamentally how I used my phone. It did, however, change how I think about it. Every choice, every friction point made me realise that there is a fine line between creative and control. And maybe that's the point. We chase perfect tech when perhaps what we should be chasing is tech that truly feels ours. So there we have it. Which phone is still in my pocket after 30 days? If you hadn't guessed already, it's the Honor Magic V5, and I don't see myself moving back to iOS anytime soon. Why don't you guys let me know your thoughts on this in the comments section down below? Are you team Android or team iOS, and why? Let's have a civilized conversation about this. Anyway guys, my name's been Robert, this has been Bite Size Clue, and I will catch you in the next one. Adios.